The first time Oscar and I ended our relationship was because, well, he was on a London trip. He was in New York at the time.
You'd have to speak a little louder.
Sorry.
I missed the last word.
On his London trip, I think he was at New York that day. He had gone on a date with a lady called Anastasia. And that's when we ended our relationship the first time. The second time we ended our relationship was the 4th of November when he took Reeva to the sports awards.
I heard 4th of November. Didn't hear the year.
Sorry, my lady.
The year? 4th of November?
2012.
Thank you.
Did he, at the time when he took Reeva to the sports award, is it your evidence that the two of you were on that day still in a relationship?
We had not officially broken up at that time.
What does it mean that you have not officially broken up?
About a week before the sports awards, we were in Sun City and we had a couple problems, and over that week there was a lot of commotion in our relationship, so we were still together, but we were having problems.
Can you remember sending him an email?
Yes, I remember my email very clearly.
Yes. And you still maintain, because we will get, if necessary, to that and other emails, do you still maintain that on the 4th of November 2012 you were in a relationship with Oscar Pistorius?
Yes.
Now, where did you live at the time when you had this relationship with Oscar Pistorius?
I was living in Johannesburg, in Dame Fern, my lady.
And are you positive that you spent 4 nights a week with him?
Yes, I'm positive, my lady.
And can you tell us about the bedroom, and specifically when the lights are off?
Yes, I can.
What is the visibility?
In the bedroom or the bathroom?
In the bedroom.
The bedroom, are you asking during the evening?
During the evening when the lights are off?
During the evening when the lights are off, it's fairly dark because it's night. Oscar used to keep his curtain open about that wide open because he used to train at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Do you say it's fairly dark, or would you say it's very dark?
I guess it depends what evening it is, my lady.
Well, I'm just asking if you would ever have said to anyone that it would be very dark in that bedroom.
My lady, would he be referring to the bedroom or the bathroom?
I'm asking you about the bedroom.
The bedroom. If all the curtains were closed, then yes, it would be dark, my lady.
Very dark. Is that right? Very dark.
Well, dark.
Could you see?
There might have been some light come in some nights.
Can you say what the positions were of the curtains that night of the incident?
Can I say what the position?
Yes.
I was not there that night of the incident, my lady.
Now, tell me about the screaming. What was the situation? Was it an unhappiness between you and him, and an unhappiness between him and some of your friends that caused the screaming?
on something specific or in
No,
general?
just if it was an unhappiness, or was his life threatened?
No, his life was not threatened then. He would scream out of anger, my lady.
So when you heard him screaming, it was out of anger, but not in situations where he perceived his life to be threatened.
No, my lady.
Is that a fair statement that I make to you? When you
Yes.
said no, I think I understand what you mean. It means that you have not heard him screaming when he perceived his life to be threatened.
No, my lady.
We have a statement, one of disclosed by the state, of Mr. Darren Fresco. And the only reason why I'm referring to that statement is to get a date when this alleged incident would have taken place. And I'm talking about a shot through the open sunroof. According to that statement, and see if it would accord with what you can remember, it was 30 September 2012. Would that make sense?
I think so, yes.
Would you mind, just to speak up a little bit?
Sorry, of course, yes.
And you spent time that day at the Vaal River, inter alia, with Mr. Pistorius and these friends like Darren Fresco, Justin Navarez, and Sam Gravenstein.
Yes, my lady.
Can you remember what time you left?
I don't have recollection of the time we left.
Would you remember if it was in the early afternoon, late afternoon, in the evening?
From what I can remember, it must have been late afternoon.
Can you remember where it was more or less that Mr. Fresco was pulled over by the traffic?
My lady, I do not know that area, so I can't tell you more or less.
I understand from the information that it had that it was more or less in the vicinity of Grasmere on the highway. Would that ring a bell?
I don't know where Grasmere is.
Can you say if it was on a highway or in a suburban area?
I would not remember, my lady.
So you don't even know if you were traveling at that time on the highway or that you would maybe travel on roads in the inner city?
We were
other parts of town?
on our way home from the Vaal Dam, so it could have been a highway, it could have been a road, but I'm not sure, my lady.
And how long after being pulled over was this firing of the shot?
From what I remember, it was probably about 15 minutes after.
Where did you go from, coming from the Vaal River, where did you go to?
We went to a friend of Oscar to sign papers for guns, my lady.
Where was that?
I don't know where the house was, but I can tell you what the house looks like, my lady.
Which area was that?
I don't know the area.
Was it in Pretoria?
I don't think it was in Pretoria, but as I stated, I don't know the area.
Was it in Sandton?
I don't know the area.
But sure, Mr. Taylor, you can at least say it was in the northern suburbs, the Sandton area, it was in the Pretoria area. Can you include or exclude any of the two?
It was in maybe a middle class area, perhaps close to the Vaal, my lady.
Close to the, is your memory it was still close to the?
Close to the Vaal area.
If you say the Vaal area, meaning where the river is?
Yes.
So it was not far from the river.
Well, we had, from the river, we'd probably traveled about 30 minutes before we got stopped. Thereafter, I reckon it was about 15 minutes, but I cannot say exact, my lady.
And you say that Mr. Fresco was driving the car?
Yes, my lady.
Why I ask you that the state amended that specific charge put to Mr. Pistorius from the traveling to driving, that he was driving. So someone must have said to the state that Mr. Pistorius was driving the car at that time.
On the way to the Val, Mr. Pistorius drove the car, and on the way back from the Val, Darren Fresco drove the car, my lady.
I understand that. I've looked at the statement of Mr. Fresco, and so far as it contains the truth, he says he was driving. So I'm trying to think who the other person would have been that would have told the state that Mr. Pistorius was driving, causing the state to amend the charge to amend the word traveling that he was driving.
I don't know what the question is being asked, my lady.
So you say he was definitely not driving at the time, Mr. Pistorius?
No, he wasn't, my lady.
My lady, with the utmost respect, perhaps we have different indictments. The one I have, the amended indictment, count 2 clearly reads, in that on or about 30 September 2010, and whilst travelling in a vehicle with other passengers on the public road district, did unlawfully discharge a firearm.
It was amended in the charges. My lady will find you the place. I asked Mr. Aldrich, drew my attention to specific.
Then we'll have to, I'll also check on the record what I read out. As far as I know, I read out travelling.
May I find the place? Lady, you would remember, and I know it's the wrong record, but I made the first transcript available to you of the defence, the running transcript.
Unfortunately, I don't have it here.
Well, lady, I can help the state because they would have a copy, and it is to help them page 5, where he says at page 4. That there was an amendment to count 2, and he goes on and he says in page 5, I will then read it again, in that on or about 30 September 2012 and whilst driving in a motor vehicle with other passengers. Now if he means by that it was simply as a passenger, then I will accept it. If it means that Mr. Pistorius was driving, then there's a confusion. You can correct.
There's no confusion. The only confusion could be mine that I read it wrong, but I've now checked the indictment and it reads travelling. I've never meant that Mr. Pistorius was driving the vehicle at all. If it's on the charge, on the indictment, I'll go through the process of having it amended. But I would clearly state that it's never been our intention to say that Mr. Pistorius was driving the vehicle when a shot was fired through them.
I accept that, my lady. It could have been when he used the word driving that it was intended for a different purpose. I accept that. Taylor. So, and after going to fill in the papers, what happened then?
We went for dinner in Sandton, my lady.
Can you remember where in Sandton?
It was a burger place in, I think it's called Athol Square.
And from there?
And from there, we went back to Justin Devaris's house where Oscar's car was parked.
Do you know more or less what time it was by then?
No, I don't.
Was it early? Was it late? Was it in the evening?
That was the evening, my lady.
And you go to where Oscar's car was parked, and then?
And then Oscar and I went home.
Did you sleep with him that night?
From what I remember, yes.
But you do remember going home with him?
Yes.
I don't mean that you physically interact with him. I mean that you sleep over.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
I remember going home with him. Whether I stayed at his house that night or whether he dropped me off at home, I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure that I went back home with him.
Is your memory of this event, is that good, Ms. Taylor? Can you really remember this incident?
Yes, my lady.
And it would not be a case that he fired a shot out of anger. It was he was laughing.
Sorry?
It was not the case that he fired a shot out of anger. It rather seems that when he fired the shot, according to you, Mr. Fresco and Mr. Pistorius were laughing.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
You can answer.
After we left the policeman, Oscar was very angry at the time. Thereafter, they were joking around saying that they wanted to shoot a robot, and that's where they were laughing.
You would, for instance, never ever have said that he fired a shot because of anger. That could not be you.
Yes, that could have been me because he was angry at the police at the time, my lady.
Now, I'm talking about what precipitated the firing of the shot. If I listen to your evidence, we know he was angry after the incident of the policeman, according to your version. But then we know there's a next stage where they were joking, laughing when they fired the shot. So one thing we do know in your evidence as you sit there, that the shot was not fired out of anger, but they were joking.
The shots was fired because they were angry at the police, and they found it very funny to irritate the police, if that makes sense.
Now, how would they have irritated the police?
Because I remember it being shortly after we left the police.
I understand that. How would the firing of the shot have irritated the police?
I don't necessarily think that they were irritating the police. I think maybe out of spite after being stopped. The second time we ended our relationship was the 4th of November when he took Reeva to the sports awards.
I heard 4th of November, didn't you hear the year?
Sorry, my lady.
The year, 4th of November?
2012.
Thank you.
Did he, at the time when he took Reeva to the sports award, is it your evidence that the two of you were on that day still in a relationship?
We had not officially broken up at that time.
What does it mean that you have not officially broken up?
About a week before the sports awards, we were in Sun City and we had a couple problems.
And you still maintain, because we will get, if necessary, to that and other emails, do you still maintain that on the 4th of November 2012 you were in a relationship with Oscar Pistorius?
Yes.
Now,
the first time Oscar and I ended our relationship was because, well, he was on a London trip. He was in New York at the time,
You'd have to speak a little louder.
Sorry.
I missed the last word.
On his London trip, I think he was at New York that day. He had gone on a date with a lady called Anastasia. And that's when we ended our relationship the first time. And over that week, there was a lot of commotion in our relationship. So we were still together, but we were having problems.
Can you remember sending him an email?
Yes, I remember my email very clearly.
Yes.